Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. Today we are going to be talking to Gavin Bassett. Gavin has a very, very extensive and very hard-won background, and he's going to share some of his wisdom around some of the biggest deals that he's made in his career and share with us some of the insights. But before we get to that, if you have got lead flow in your business and you want to convert more of those leads into sales, head over to johnblakeaudio.com and get your free audio training. And this is where I show you the precise strategy that I use to help my clients, and you'll be able to use it for your business to double your sales with your existing leads. So this is the exact strategy that I work with clients on. It's the first thing I do when we first start working together. And what I'm going to do is, in addition to the audio that you'll be able to download, you're also going to have the PDF guide that's got the exact email templates and the exact phone scripts that I use to convert some of these clients that are often ready to buy, but they're just not ready to buy straight away. So head over to johnblakeaudio.com and get that working for you and put to use in your business straight away. Okay, now a bit of background about Gavin. He is a husband, a father, and a business owner. And for almost 15 years, he served business owners in the banking industry and watched as way too many of them put way too much time into their business and not enough into their families. And it was, it's never supposed to be that way. And so in 2001, Gavin left the banking industry, having helped, hundreds of different businesses there, and got an opportunity to help even more businesses to get their businesses under control so that they could spend more time with their families and make sure that they were there for their families. And then along the road, he was able to spend more time with his own wife and his own 4 boys as they were growing up, and also became known as one of the best business coaches in Action Coach globally, which, when you consider at that point how many action coaches there were, that's a pretty significant achievement. So in 2015, he came across an alarming statistic that said that 83 businesses were failing every 60 seconds somewhere in the world. And this made him realize that he needed to be doing much more than what he was. So Biznostics was born. It's an online platform to help small business owners diagnose where their businesses are and provide them with a step-by-step game plan to help them run a more successful business, so they have the finances and the time to do the important things in life before it's too late. Gavin firmly believes that small businesses are the fabric of communities, and that when small businesses are succeeding, their families succeed, and in the wider community benefits. So really stoked to have a person I've known for a long time, had quite a lot to do with over the years. Mate, welcome to Master Dealmaker Secrets. How you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, John. Good to be on your show, mate.
Cool. So, mate, anything that you want to add to the intro I just talked about, gave you?
Yeah, look, it's really interesting. Biznostics has evolved over the last 3 years into an online business school, and we primarily help people starting out in business to get it right from the outset, to avoid that exit and failure rate that exists out there.
Yeah, I bet. So, mate, we'll get stuck into it. The biggest deal that you ever did. Tell me about it.
Oh, look, that goes back to my days as a franchisee. And I guess what was interesting is 4 of us melded our franchises together to kind of have like a super franchise. And we had one of those cunning plans, as most of us have, to take over the world. And we decided that we were going to have 20 franchises within our franchise. And we came up with this idea that we would sit down with the head franchise and see if there was some sort of deal we could do, because we didn't want to have to buy all these franchises because that was going to cost $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally. And so we were sitting down with one of the BDMs for the franchise over dinner. And at the same time, they'd had a similar idea that they wanted to sell franchises in bulk. So, as it would be, the timing was pretty perfect. And I guess for us going into any transaction, we want to always make sure that the deal is good for us, but also good for the other party, because you always want to be able to be in a good relationship with that other party, regardless of how the deal may go in the future, right? Because not all deals work out the way we think they're going to work.
No,
so we mashed out something that would work for them, got it on vendor terms, which was really helpful back then. But we also able to get a heavy discount as well, because we were going to buy 20 of these. And, part of the deal was that, we had to quickly put franchisees in place. And as we did, the franchise fees would kick in. So it was one of those deals where we were able to just over an interesting, this funny bit. The guy took us out to dinner because he could see we were pretty serious. And me and my other business partner, she was a vegetarian, and he took us to a meat, like a steak restaurant, It was like, dude, you're not really working this hard. You're trying to get us over the line here, and we're trying to get you over the line, but, you're taking a vegetarian to a steak restaurant, not a start. But look, over, a few paper napkins, we were able to mash out a deal where we took on these 20 franchises. We were able to have it on vendor terms. We were able to stagger it out. So as we bought franchises on, then we'd start paying the franchise fee. I guess the thing for me was it was more kind of like that perfect timing, nothing really to do with me, that we'd come up with this idea at a similar time the franchisor was coming up with a similar idea. And what that led to was they were able to sell many more as a consequence. So that was good for them because we kind of pioneered it, if you like. And it was good for us because it enabled us to grow without throwing a lot of capital into it. We're able to actually capitalize things as we grew rather than chucking $1 million on Black 13 all at once.
Yeah. Gotcha. So what were some of the main things that you sort of learned as you went through that process?
Oh, look, I think because it was new for us and new for them, there weren't really any clear rules.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things going into deals these days. I always have very clear outcomes and very clear rules.
Gotcha.
Whereas with that particular one, at that stage, it was the biggest deal I'd done. And yeah, look, we all we had in mind was we wanted to pull this deal off, which is probably one of the worst things that you can actually have in mind.
Yeah.
Because that way it's got no parameters, it's got no structure, so you end up, ego starts to drive the deal. And I think that was probably the biggest lesson in that was there was a lot of ego from both parties to get this deal done, as opposed to making sure that, the rules for engagement were correct for the deal. And you can only take responsibility for that for yourself.
Yeah.
So, for me these days, it's definitely having clear rules and clear outcomes before I sit down at the table to do that deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good point. And yeah, because you know that you're going to, you could know that you're going to play straight bat, but you never really know that the other person's going to play straight bat.
100%. And not only, it's good that you play straight bat, but if you don't have good rules in place, you can do some really dumb things because you haven't really thought it through. So you can still be honourable, but still do dumb things. So
yeah, that's true. And end up in a place where it's like, wow, how did I get here?
Yeah.
That's so true. So so tell us about a big deal that you wanted to get but you didn't get, and what happened there?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest one that sort of fits into that category, but maybe not exactly as you're asking it, but I think this is a good one for people to be aware of, where you're sitting down and we do a lot of partnerships these days with different associations. And so we do deals with partners to get them on board to support their members or whatever the case is. And I remember sitting down with this one particular organisation and, we had our rules and our outcomes and, we really set the game plan up really, really well, massive pitch and all that sort of stuff. And, worked like clockwork and, the guys at the end going, oh, look, that's normally we say no to these things, but when we've seen you unravel what you have, like that's just perfect. We love it. We want to be part of this. And so you start to think, hey, this is a done deal. And so you get the paperwork all organised and you send it across and there's a bit of, toing and froing with the paperwork and the contract gets signed and there's this misplaced trust that because you've both signed a contract that therefore the deal is done. But at the end of the day, no deal is done until some money starts transacting. And in this particular deal, we had a 6-month contract and at the end of 6 months, no money had transacted.
Oh, no.
And, the thing I really learned from that was it doesn't matter about the contract. What it matters is about how well the two of you then work with that contract or work with that deal to really make it come into fruition. Like getting the contract signed, even though it seems like it's the hardest thing, especially when it can make millions for your business, even though that seems like the hardest thing, that's actually the easy bit. The hardest bit is making sure that the deal actually goes through the way you both agreed and in the timeframes you both agreed and in the way that you both agreed. The mistake I made was just thinking that because the deal was signed and because we all thought it was great, that it would all just happen.
Yeah.
So, look, that's probably the biggest blooper right there, bro.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Like you can, and it's almost like this. A similar thing is, when you sign a new client on, and there's a plan that you put together, and there's a certain period of euphoria,
yes,
having done it, but then it's like, wow, now I've got to deliver on all of the things I just promised.
Yeah. Yeah, and in those sort of deals, it's where both parties have to.
Yeah.
But when both parties get busy with their own day-to-days, which is really easy to happen in those sorts of partnership deals, it's really easy for things to slip through the cracks and all of a sudden 6 months is gone and the contract's at an end, and then you kind of just going, right, okay.
Yeah, and you're right. It really does take two to tango because you can be, I always try and make sure that there's absolutely nothing that anyone's waiting on me for.
100%.
And then that way I'm always waiting for the other person, but it's not always a good idea.
No.
Because, if I'm waiting on the other person for something, then for whatever reason they're actually not playing ball. They're not bringing as much energy to the to the equation as what I am, and that's not a really positive thing either.
No.
So yeah, a motivated client is very, very it's a very, very good thing. If you've got someone who either isn't motivated or they are motivated but they're distracted, you can have the most tightest contract in the world.
Yeah,
it's not really going to get you too far.
No, you're right. And the motivation level needs to be higher than, hey, this looks good, I like it, it's a good fit. There has to be real skin in the game. And that was probably one thing that we really learned through that particular process was that there needed to be financial recompense going both ways. It couldn't just be that we had a great product and we were going to really help their members, that there had to be some there had to be some financial incentive going back to them in some way, shape or form, not where they were kind of like charlatans to their members, but where they were getting compensated for the efforts they were putting in for their members for our product, if that made sense.
Yeah.
And that was probably a missing piece of the puzzle. And the reason it was missing was because they didn't want it. We discovered later without it, nothing would happen.
No.
Right. And when we changed that after the 6 months and did a new contract, then we started to see a little bit of business start to flow as a consequence.
Yeah. While there was actually something in it for them.
Yeah. Which is kind of strange because they didn't want it, but we just went, well, let's just try it because something has to change here.
Yeah. Yeah. There's got to be sufficient motivation on both ends.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, there has to be an equal force of motivation. Otherwise, what happens is, like you say, you're doing your end of the bargain and now you're putting pressure on them to deliver theirs, and most pressure is unwanted, right? So then it starts to get a bit awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Oh, mate, they're both really good examples. Mate, one of the other questions that I ask people such as yourself, especially people that have been in business and have done as much, learning and otherwise as what people like yourself have, is what are the three books that you find yourself either recommending the most or referring to the most?
Okay. Well, it's probably changed recently. One book that I recommend flat stick these days is a book called Profit First.
Yeah.
By Michael, I think it's Michael Witz. He actually says, my name's Mike Motorbike because my surname's too hard to pronounce. And I think he's right. But Profit First is definitely one of those books.
Yep.
Blue Ocean Strategies is another one, and especially where we find ourselves right now.
Yeah.
You've got to do a whole bunch of different things right now than you've ever done before to stand out.
Yep.
And the 4 disciplines of execution.
Nice. Tell me about that one.
They may be a little bit different to other people that throw around, because I think things have changed so much that we actually need to be across, some new ideas.
I agree. I in fact, in the last week, I've done a number of things. I've gone back to a lot of the texts that, that I've referred to in the past. I've been upgrading a whole bunch of different skills. I've been, revisiting. I mean, we've all had the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I've found that it's, I think that there's some excitement in it. You know what I mean? There's reinvention and there's new opportunity, because there has been such a seismic shift in the way that everyone's, perceiving everything. And, there's some really tired cliches that have already come out of it that I'm really sick of seeing and reading and hearing. But, but putting that aside, I think there's certainly some exciting opportunities for those that can be open to it and to not read and listen too much to the mainstream media. I just find that it's a killer of possibility. You know what I mean? It's just, you listen to that for too long, and suddenly, your whole disposition becomes so downtrodden. You just don't believe that anything's possible.
Yeah,
and you've experienced the same.
Yeah, well, look, one thing I've seen a lot of, which is, I find, I don't know what the word is, maybe distasteful, is that people are still trying to approach, this whole COVID-19 thing and its effect on business in a way that they would any traditional downturn.
Yeah.
And I just go, for me, and maybe I'm all alone here, I don't know, I just go, you know what, this is not a traditional downturn. No. So we can't approach it the same way. And this whole notion of, hey, let's do 90-day plans or 1-year plans, that's out the window right now. Yeah. Yes, stick to your long-term vision. You have to do that. But in reality, we should be planning for our day and for our week. because so much is changing so fast that if you do any more than that, you've just wasted a whole bunch of time that could have been spent on acting on your plan for this week or today. Yeah. And I'm not seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of people just going, hey, I've got these strategies that will get you out of this economic downturn. I'm just going, dude, like no one's seen anything like this before. It's not your typical downturn, so it can't be treated the same.
No. And I'm seeing a heap of, don't just survive this time, thrive in this time. And it's like, that is just such an, for so many businesses out there, that is such an outright lie.
I know, and it's just a really bad idea.
Surely, I think maybe there's, I can think of maybe half a dozen industries that stand to do better, throughout this this time.
Yeah.
But to have this blanket assumption that you can help somebody thrive during, I think I heard Simon Bowen say something the other day, and I went, oh, thank God. He said, no, he goes, it's survive to then be able to thrive on the other end. And I went,
boom,
oh, wow,
that's the message we need to hear is
totally.
How do you make sure you get from here to there so that you then have a chance of thriving out the other side?
Exactly, yeah, because if you don't pop out the other side, you're not thriving anywhere.
Yeah, and the trouble with the whole thrive mentality in this current space is people are going to try a lot of dumb ideas instead of actually, making sure that what they've got gets out the other end.
Yeah, that's so true.
Anyway, that's just my little bugbear right now, brother.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only person that's thinking that.
I've been struggling to find people that think like I'm thinking right now. I'm just going, have I got it wrong? I don't think I've got it wrong.
I think there must, there's got to be a level of naivety that would lead somebody to think like that. Maybe it's because we've been in business for longer than 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people get comfortable with their same old notions rather than going, hang on, this is different. Yep. And so now I have to think differently, which means I'm out of my league. And I've been saying that to all of our customers on our online business school. Hey, we're in this with you. We're going to lead you as best as we can, but just know we're in the same situation. We're stuck at home. We've got kids we're homeschooling. We're trying to run a business, and
we're all in uncharted territory. That's for sure.
Yeah. So let's not pretend there are no gurus right now.
No, exactly.
Anyway,
so mate, I very much appreciate you being with us, and your insight, and some of the certainly some of the insights around those two examples that you've given us, in terms of some of your your battle stories, I guess you could call them. But for the listeners, have you got is a good place to start with you to go to Biznostics and check that out? Is there a particular resource that you wanted to make available, or is that the best place for people to start?
Yeah, look, that's the best place to start, is jump on our website, biznostics.com. BIZNOSTICS.
Beautiful.
So it's a play on words of business diagnostic, because we always think you need to diagnose where your business is at to get to the root cause of what's going on. And if you start working on the root cause of things, all the symptoms will go away. But the trouble is most people like to work on their symptoms rather than the root cause.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you go to a chiropractor, right? And you go, hey, I've got a pain in my neck, and they start working on your lower back, and you go, what are you doing? The neck's your neck's okay.
Yeah.
So again, we like
whole
to think
referral pain thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we like to try and do. And within our platform, we have 60 different things that people can do to fix the root cause of their problems. And we work in groups online with our online business school, just so that people know that they're not alone. They're not going through this stuff by themselves. That there are others who are on the journey with them. And we've got a number of free resources that people can just download if they're struggling with things like time management, cash flow management, But, possibly even those things need a bit of a rework in today's environment.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Unreal. Well, Gav, thanks again so much for being on. And, mate, I'll look forward to catching up with you shortly.
All right. Thanks, mate. Yeah, when we can go surfing again, let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Most definitely.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker's Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies to maximize your sales process with new episodes every week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive free no-fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.